I know it sounds crazy, but Monkey D. Garp might not be Luffy's only legendary grandpa. Because what if I told you that his grandfather on the other side of the family tree was none other than Roxy Xebec? And I promise that if you make it till the end of this video, you will have your mind completely blown away by the conclusion of this. Also, a big thank you to Reddit user Mr. Bushido for laying the groundwork for this theory on our subreddit about the secret Goa Kingdom connection between Garp, Rox, and Roger and their brotherly friendship. Yes, I'm not bullshitting. But before we can get to those crazy parts of this, we have to do some groundwork first. Because really, we don't know all that much about this most infamous of all pirates trying to conquer the world of One Piece, who has all but been erased from history. However, there are a lot of clues about him, including, for example, his silhouette that should tell us something. I mean, lots of theories have drawn the obvious Blackbeard comparisons, Teach's giant raft literally being named the Saber of Xebec. However, if you ask me, Rox's silhouette looks a whole lot like another character that we already know, Monkey D. Dragon. A lot of fans have long assumed that Monkey D. Dragon was Garp's son, given that he carries the Monkey family name. However, as you might have heard before or might not have, this doesn't have to be the case. Garp never once actually refers to Dragon as his quote-unquote son. All he does whenever he talks about him is referring to him as Luffy's father. So Dragon could very well be Garp's son-in-law, and Luffy's mother could then be Garp's daughter. Because while Luffy strongly resembles his grandfather Garp, those genes seem to have skipped Dragon's generation completely if Dragon was in fact Garp's biological son. So wouldn't it be more likely that after his father was erased from history, Dragon instead took his wife's name, the daughter of Garp, and Luffy's mother? I mean, it wouldn't be even the first time a character has taken their mother's name in the story. After all, Luffy's own brother, Ace, was named Portgas as a way of separating him from Roger's lineage for his own protection. And we all know that Oda loves himself some foreshadowing. So could Dragon and then Luffy after him have done the same in order to separate themselves from the Rox family name? And while Dragon of course clearly has different goals than Garp, his vision does seem to align very well with parts of Rox's. I mean, Dragon doesn't appear to want to claim the empty throne for himself to become king of the world, but just like Roxy Xebec, he does specifically want to combat the world government and the Celestial Dragons. So could he have inherited this will from Rox, from his father? After all, the D-Clan are the natural enemies of the Celestial Dragon, as we very well know from Luffy himself. However, this of course wouldn't be the only thing that Luffy would seem to have inherited from Rox's side of the family. For instance, we know that Rox gathered into his crew the most fearsome and strongest pirates on the Grand Line. Edward Newgate, Charlotte Lin, Shiki the Golden Lion, even a young Kaido. And so all of these pirates, many of whom would later on become Yonko, are the strongest forces on the planet, and they all served on Rox's ship. And so someone who could rally all of these incredible personalities under one flag would have to be supremely charismatic and powerful. I mean, getting people like that to work together, they would have to have a gift of making friends and allies out of anyone they'd meet. Does that sound like anyone you know? According to Mihawk, Luffy's propensity for making allies is without any doubt his greatest strength, and this strength may have come from his grandfather Roxy Xebec. In the very same way that Rox gathered the strongest pirates of his era to his side, so Luffy does by amassing his grand fleet and teaming up with several members of the worst generation. Law and Kid very much seem to be set up as similarly significant members of Luffy's own pirate era after all. But the similarities between Roxy Xebec, Monkey D. Dragon, and Luffy are multifaceted. Not only do they share physical resemblance, all three of them, but they share defining characteristics as well. However, of course, this is not where this theory ends. Not even close. The ending is going to blow you away. So let's talk about Luffy's family tree, because the family history shared between the Monkey and the Rox clans might go way deeper. So get ready for some soap opera level of speculation here. And really, it all starts with a young version of Garp. Eiichiro Oda has a really tight complete grasp on his story's timeline. Even when there are potential loopholes, he's pretty good about closing them. And so, after he decided to make Ace the son of Gol D. Roger, a move that was most likely not intended from the beginning, he knew it wouldn't work because Roger had died before Ace's birth. Ergo, Portgas de Rouge was pregnant for 2 years to avoid the One Piece equivalent of King Herod. This is a man who, when he introduced time travel into the series, made sure that it only worked one way, so he wouldn't mess up his precious timeline here. He even uses masterful hints, like having the samurai and Momo alluding to knowing Roger, allowing eagle-eyed readers to guess the huge time travel plot twist here. And so, given that Oda has been very meticulous, let's look at Garp in the past. Because Eiichiro Oda has drawn him before. When Oda drew Garp as a child, he looked a whole lot like young Luffy. Like, look at this. He's a rambunctious adventurer riding a tiger. He's a wild boy befriending forest animals just like his grandson did on the very same island. This doesn't look like a future hero of the Marines to me. This looks like a future pirate, no? So how exactly did he go from the spitting image of Luffy to a noble Marine? And even more importantly, let's also poke a little bit at the timeline he's gotten. He joined the Marines at the age of 22. We know that Kobe joined the Marines at the young age of 16. Zephyr from Film Z joined the Marines at age 14, and while it's not unheard of for the Marines to join later on in life, Sakazuki and Borsalino, for instance, were also in their 20s when they joined. And so I think it's pretty clear that joining the Marines wasn't exactly the starting point for Garp. Which of course leaves us with the question, what might Garp have been doing up until age 22? This is going to be super important for the crazy conclusion at the end of this theory, so pay close attention now. It has been repeatedly shown throughout the story that Luffy clearly takes heavily after his grandfather, so I think it's very doubtful that Garp was just patiently sitting around the Goa Kingdom until he turned 20 or 22 to join the Marines. If he was anything like Luffy as a kid, which the illustrations and the story would suggest strongly, he probably couldn't wait to get away from his home island and see the world. But before we can speculate on what exactly Garp was doing for all those years, let's talk about the home island itself a little bit longer. Because the Goa Kingdom, as you know, is a place of extreme inequality. The nobles live in complete extravagance, while the poorest members of the country live among the literal trash of the Great Terminal. Now, we don't know what exactly it was that inspired Garp to become a Marine in the first place, but his foundation here could have instilled a desire to create a better, more just world, while at the same time reinforcing his conflicted distrust of the world nobles that he carries till this day. Dragon, who also comes from Goa Kingdom, sees it as a sort of miniature version of the entire One Piece world. But unlike Garp, who wants to improve the system from within, his son, or probable son-in-law, Dragon, wants to take down the whole of the corrupt world government and rebuild a better world by force if necessary. Okay, and at this point, the story takes a really weird but super important and interesting twist. So when naming the nationalities of the entire Straw Hat crew, if they were real-life people, Oda has said multiple times, I think, that Luffy would be Brazilian. The Goa Kingdom actually takes its name from a region of India that was colonized by Portugal, the same European country that colonized Brazil. But what if I told you that Oda-sensei giving Luffy his nationality might have actually been one of the biggest pieces of foreshadowing in the entire series so far? Now, you see, it's pretty common knowledge, I think, that many One Piece pirates are based on and named after real-life pirates. X-Drake is Sir Francis Drake, Jewelry Bonnie is N. Bonnie, Blackbeard is Blackbeard, huh? But one parallel I haven't heard as much is Rox. Rox seems like an extremely strange name, but there actually was a famous pirate named this. And I know I'm gonna slaughter this, but I'm gonna try anyway. Roque Brasiliano. In English, anyways, his name literally is translated to Rock the Brazilian. The Brazilian as in from Brazil. And Rox even shares a few important qualities with his real-life counterparts, because this real-life version of Rox also sailed with other very famous and notorious pirates, such as Henry Henry Morgan, Captain Morgan's namesake for the rum fans in the audience. His first mate, 𝙻𝚎𝚐𝚐𝚗𝚡, or Captain Yellows, became a mighty pirate captain on his own right, just like the Yonko who were spawned from the former Rocks crew. And Roque Brasiliano even bought his ship from François l'Olonnais, Roronoa Zoro's namesake. I'm butchering these names, I'm so sorry. I do want to say that this part is more of a fun fact, not really part of the theory, because I highly doubt that Rocks bought his ship from a yet-to-be-born Zoro, but it might kind of hint at the, you know, Blackbeard naming his ship after Rocks kind of thing. Now, the Brazilian Rock was famously a bit of a barbaric and violent drunk, but the crucial similarity is in Rock the Brazilian's fate. No one knows about it. There is no record of him after 1671, whether he died at sea or retreated into a quiet life of anonymity. His fate is to this day unexplained. And so basically, just as Rocks and God Valley have been completely wiped from the history books, Roque Brasiliano's end is shrouded in a lot of mystery. So could Rocks be from the Goa Kingdom, One Piece's Brazil equivalent? And if so, then who's to say that Rocks 𝙻𝚎𝚐𝚐𝚗𝚍 and Monkey D. Garp met each other on the high seas for the very first time? You know, as a pirate and a marine? I mean, it's really hard to envision Garp as anything else but the hard-headed, fist of love-wielding marine that we know and love, but could Rocks and him have been friends? I mean, if they are from the same kingdom, it would be believable that two super powerful people with outsized personalities would at least know each other, if not at least get along. And if Garp shared Luffy's adventurous disposition, could they even have voyaged together out to sea? And so what if during Garp's missing years before joining the Marines at the age of 22, he was actually a pirate? Not a violent buccaneer, of course, but a peaceful and adventurous pirate like his grandson. Or if you want to use the terminology from Eiichiro Oda's Romance Dawn, a precursor to One Piece, a peace-loving pirate opposed to a violent pirate, which is kind of how he divides those two groups in the One Piece world as well. And of course, we already know of Garp's connection to Gol D. Roger. While being fierce rivals, the hero of the Marines and the king of pirates, they were also close friends in a way. After all, Roger entrusted Ace, his own son and who he probably believed to change the world, into Garp's care. Not Rayleigh or Shanks or any other pirates, Garp. Now we do know that Roger is also from the East Blue, hailing from Loketown. So could these two upstarts from the Goa Kingdom, Rocks and Garp, have met Gol D. Roger as well on their early journeys? I know that it sounds absolutely insane, but try to entertain the idea that before the formation of the Rocks crew, before Roger found the One Piece, and before Garp joined the Marines, these three all sailed together on one ship, that they were running around islands and just having a good time, like Luffy, Sabo, and Ace. The three could have adventured and saw treasure and thrills sailing from island to island, but eventually something must have changed. A rift that formed between these three friends. And most likely, this conflict was brought on by Rocks. Now, this of course is pure speculation, since we won't know until we finally learn the truth behind Rocks and what happened between the three at God Valley, but it's very possible that Rocks was simply no longer satisfied with the simple, fun-loving adventuring. He wanted wealth or fame or power, and perhaps he would stop at nothing to achieve those things. He would start to treat others cruelly, he would enact violence on his rivals, and perhaps even innocent people. By the way, you should really subscribe if you don't want 𝙻𝚎𝚐𝚗𝚘𝚙 coming for you next. And so it was this great division or rift that formed between these three friends that sent Roger and Garp, and also Rocks, of course, in separate directions as well. Roger insisted that piracy could still be fine, but done in the right way. Similar to Luffy, he could still adventure and be free without bringing harm to others. And gathered together with Silvers Rayleigh, 𝚎𝚎𝚐𝚐𝚗𝚍, and the rest of the Roger pirates, he circumnavigated the entire globe, eventually finding Laugh Tale. Garp, however, wanted to protect others from the harm of violent pirates like Rocks, and thus chose to join the Marines. Despite his inner conflict with working under celestial dragons, he sought to work within the system to change it for the better, given that Koby and 𝙻𝚎𝚐𝚐 have joined Sword and were also trained under him. Garp's a pretty good candidate for the organization's leader, but that's for another video, of course. And so these three went their separate ways, but would of course, as you know, meet again. When Rox finally set his eyes upon becoming the king of the world government had to stand in opposition to him. Ever since we learned about God Valley, it's been perplexing to think that Roger and Garp would ever team up, yet alone do so to protect the Celestial Dragons. I mean, Garp is clearly no fan of the Celestial Dragons himself, and Roger, of course, as a pirate, didn't like them either. But it might just be that they weren't fighting Rox to save the world nobles at all. They were fighting to prevent a world where Rox held the power, because such a world would be even worse than one controlled by the world government, so they went to fight their former friends. As you can see, this theory suddenly makes God Valley very personal, which I absolutely love. Garp and Roger weren't just fighting a terrible and powerful enemy, they were fighting against their closest childhood friend and technically brother. And so it's really no stretch of the imagination to think that these three would have exchanged sake cups just like Sabo, Ace, and Luffy eventually would do as well. And I just want you to imagine how much this would raise the stakes for an eventual Rox and God Valley flashback once we get it. These three legends of the One Piece world, an evil pirate, a marine hero, and the king of the pirates, might even parallel similar trios today. The new Rox would be Blackbeard, the future Pirate King would of course be Luffy, and the marine hero role could be fulfilled by Smoker, or more likely based on recent story events, Koby. After all, Luffy and Koby have been friends and allies all throughout the series, even before Luffy gathered a single member of his pirate crew. And so if it should be true that Luffy is the grandson of both Garp and Rox, this would mean he inherited the D initial from both sides of his family tree, which, let's be real, is very likely. The only other character who's confirmed to have a D from both his father and motherly side is Ace. Clearly, they were both the optimal candidates to become the next Pirate King and the next Joy Boy. And this of course leaves us with another and maybe even bigger mystery. If Rox and Garps are Luffy's grandfathers and Dragon his dad, who in the world is Luffy's mother then? And who are his possible grandmothers? As his family tree seems to become more and more significant, and with Oda-sensei having confirmed twice now that he has indeed drawn Luffy's mother before in the series, shouldn't it be possible to figure out who that person is? Yeah, probably is. So click on this video if you want to watch that.